The Naked Gun wasn't supposed to work. It was based on a TV show that got cancelled for being too smart for audiences. The studio nearly pulled the plug. Baseball teams refused to cooperate, and one cast member would later become, well, let's just say things got complicated. But somehow, this chaotic mess became a comedy masterpiece that made nearly $80 million. And behind the scenes, network stupidity, team rivalries, and decisions so bizarre they're stranger than the movie itself. Here are 20 insane facts about The Naked Gun that prove it shouldn't have worked, but did anyway. Number 1. The TV show was cancelled for the stupidest reason in television history. In 1982, ABC had a problem. Police Squad was getting rave reviews from critics. The writing was brilliant, Leslie Nielsen was perfect. But there was one tiny issue that made network executives panic. ABC Entertainment president Tony Tomopoulos delivered what would become the most infamous cancellation explanation ever. Police Squad was cancelled because the viewer had to watch it in order to appreciate it. Translation: audiences were too dumb to get the jokes without a laugh track telling them when to laugh. TV Guide called this the most stupid reason a network ever gave for ending a series. The show lasted exactly 6 episodes. 6 years later, that failed concept made nearly $80 million at the box office. Oops. Number 2. The studio literally forced them into television against their will. The Zucker brothers wanted to make another movie after Airplane. They had this cop show idea, but couldn't figure out how to make it work as a film. Enter Paramount's Michael Eisner with the worst advice in Hollywood history. Eisner told them, "I can get you 6 episodes on the air if you do it as a half-hour TV show." The Zizard team didn't want to do television. They wanted movies. But Eisner pushed them into it anyway. The irony: this compromise that nobody wanted became the foundation for one of the most successful comedy franchises ever. Sometimes the worst decisions create the best accidents. Number 3. ABC couldn't cancel Police Squad fast enough. Here's how much ABC hated their own show. They announced the cancellation after only 4 episodes had aired. Not 6, 4. They didn't even wait to see if the audience would grow. David Zucker later revealed that ABC couldn't cancel it fast enough. The remaining 2 episodes were dumped onto the summer schedule like unwanted leftovers. No promotion, no fanfare, just goodbye. But here's the kicker. Those summer reruns on cable networks created a cult following that eventually demanded a move. ABC accidentally created their own competition. Number 4. Major League Baseball nearly killed the entire project. Getting MLB to cooperate was, according to insider sources, a royal pain in the ass. The league initially told production that they would never go for the project. Baseball executives were terrified of being associated with a spoof. The Zucker brothers, being from Wisconsin, wanted to use the Milwaukee Brewers. MLB said no and recommended the Seattle Mariners instead because they wanted to promote what they called the really weak franchise. Brutal, but honest. The compromise was bizarre. They had to buy massive quantities of Mariners season tickets that ended up going to charities because nobody in LA wanted Mariners tickets. Sometimes corporate negotiations get really weird. Number 4. The Dodgers refused to appear in their own stadium. Here's where it gets absurd. The Dodgers were perfectly happy to rent out Dodger Stadium for filming. They just had one tiny condition. They refused to be mentioned in the film because they objected to the bench-clearing brawl scene. So we got the surreal situation of the California Angels playing a home game at their rival's stadium. The movie had to pretend Dodger Stadium was actually Anaheim Stadium. It was a budget decision, not an artistic one. This seemed smart in 1988. Simpson was a beloved sports hero transitioning to acting. What could go wrong? Well, just 3 months after the final Naked Gun sequel was released in 1994, Simpson was arrested for double murder. Suddenly, every scene with Simpson became deeply uncomfortable to watch. The entire franchise became temporarily toxic by association with one cast member's legal troubles. Number 6. The Queen Elizabeth impersonator called Simpson rude. Behind-the-scenes tensions were already brewing during filming. Jeanette Charles, who portrayed Queen Elizabeth II, later revealed that Nielsen and Priscilla Presley were charming to work with. But Simpson, this creates an eerie layer when watching their scenes together, especially the climactic baseball sequence where Simpson's character is constantly getting injured. Was there already bad blood on set? Charles's comment suggests Simpson's later behavior problems weren't entirely surprising to those who worked with him. Sometimes the warning signs are there early. Number 8. Bo Derek was the original choice, and she said no. Before Priscilla Presley, the role of Jane Spencer was offered to Bo Derek, which worked perfectly. Sometimes getting rejected by your first choice leads to better results. Number 9. Ricardo Montalban, was chosen after his Star Trek performance. The Zucker brothers were specifically inspired by Montalban's menacing performance as Khan in Star Trek II: The Wrath of Khan. They wanted that same suave, sophisticated villainy for Vincent Ludwig. Montalban brought that perfect blend of elegance and evil that made Ludwig both threatening and ridiculous. His serious, dramatic approach made Nielsen's bumbling even funnier by contrast. The casting worked so well that Ludwig became the template for comedy villains, sophisticated enough to be taken seriously, ridiculous enough to be defeated by an idiot. Number 10. Weird Al's cameo came through producer friendship. Al Yankovic's brief appearance as himself wasn't planned from the script. Number 11. Leslie Nielsen never improvised a single line. Here's what will blow your mind. Every single hilarious line from Nielsen was completely scripted. It wasn't happy accidents. It was surgical precision disguised as chaos. Number 12. The fish handshake scene had perfect timing. When Drebin accidentally kills Ludwig's priceless fish with Ludwig's priceless pen, then gives him a wet handshake with fish water, the timing was flawless. David Zucker was particularly fond of Ricardo Montalban's disgusted reaction. The scene looked completely improvised but was meticulously planned. Montalban's expression of aristocratic horror at getting fish water on his hand was pure acting gold. Sometimes the most natural-looking moments require the most preparation. The baseball game created impossible scenarios on purpose. During the climactic baseball sequence, viewers can spot something that should be impossible. 4 Angels players crossing second base during the same play. In real baseball, even during a grand slam, only 3 players would touch second base. This wasn't a mistake. It was an intentional joke that most viewers wouldn't catch. The scoreboard later shows consistent impossibilities that maintain the gag for anyone paying close attention. The film was packed with these hidden absurdities that rewarded multiple viewings. Number 14. Real umpires got ejected by the fake umpire. The film featured actual MLB umpires, including the controversial Cowboy Joe West. In a perfect twist, West gets ejected from the game by Frank Drebin. Sometimes the best satire happens when the targets embrace the joke. Number 15. The 7-person broadcast booth was decades ahead of its time. The film mocked oversized broadcast teams with a 7-person booth including Kurt Gowdy, Dick Enberg, Jim Palmer, Tim McCarver, Dick Vitale, Mel Allen, and Dr. Joyce Brothers. This seemed ridiculous in fast forward to today, and sports broadcasts actually do feature bloated commentary teams that make the Naked Gun parody look prophetic. The film was satirizing something that hadn't even happened yet. Notably, Dick Vitale, one of the loudest broadcasters ever, doesn't have a single line. Sometimes silence is the best joke. The legacy gets even stranger. ESPN published an obituary for a fictional character. Palazzo was the first and only umpire to eject another umpire from a major league game. This shows how deeply the character entered real sports culture. A fake person got a real obituary from a real sports network. Number 17. A video game was cancelled because of OJ. A planned Naked Gun video game was completely scrapped because any series co-starring Simpson was considered a bit dodgy after his arrest. One cast member's legal troubles killed an entire product line. The whole franchise became temporarily untouchable through guilt by association. Studios learned that casting controversial figures creates long-term brand risks nobody anticipates. Sometimes one bad apple really does spoil the whole barrel. Number 18. The 2025 reboot had to address the elephant in the room. Director Akiva Schaffer. Sometimes addressing controversy head-on works better than ignoring it. The moment efficiently acknowledged the problem and moved on. The Simpsons creator said it would be a hit today. Matt Groening declared, "If Police Squad had been made 20 years later, it would have been a smash. It was before its time. In 1982, your average viewer was unable to cope with its pace, its quick-fire joke. The show was essentially punished for being too clever for its era. Modern audiences binge-watch complex shows and catch every reference. Police Squad would thrive in today's viewing culture. Sometimes being ahead of your time looks like failure until the world catches up." The failed TV show made nearly $80 million. Despite Police Squad being cancelled for supposedly low viewer intelligence, The Naked Gun grossed just under $79 million worldwide. The sequel made $86.9 million. The third film made ABC's stupid cancellation decision accidentally created a comedy goldmine. Network executives who thought audiences were too dumb for the show were proven spectacularly wrong. Total franchise earnings, over $200 million from a failed 6-episode TV series. The Naked Gun succeeded precisely because it was too smart for the executives who tried to dumb it down. The chaos behind the scenes, studio interference, casting controversies, network stupidity,
created a perfect storm that transformed a failed TV show into comedy legend.